It's almost this expectation that people in that part of the world, oh, people in the Middle East, they just get killed all the time. There's just wars all the time. And so when I was telling you, I was sending those reports and I would send images of the dead children and I would get some feedback, but not the type of feedback that I would expect. I started to try to change my strategy. I said, okay, how can I humanize these children even more? And so then I would start putting images of them alive and the little girl, the
Really?
toddler wearing her princess dress. And I would even write commentary. I said, her name is Layla. You know, I'm making it up now, but obviously as an example, her name is Layla. Her favorite princess was Ariel. This is her pictured as Ariel, and this is her after the US bomb falls on her, thinking that maybe if they see these children alive, they would understand these are real kids. These are not numbers. These are not statistics. These are real children that are loved, that are beloved. Are you still okay enabling this policy? And unfortunately, the answer for most is yes. And to me, I think it does stem in a lot of racism, why our policymakers are okay with it, but they're outraged by others getting killed.
I actually want to stop right here. For you to actually go to those lengths in order to talk about children that were being killed. I'm sorry, but I do want to invoke your identity here as an Arab American. How
Absolutely
did that make you feel?
horrified, to be quite frank. And like I said, this conflict has been so eye-opening on so many levels and so tragic on so many levels. You know, obviously seeing what's been happening in Gaza on a daily basis has been absolutely traumatic, and understanding and speaking to people that are there. And then the whole other layer of dealing with society, dealing with your coworkers and realizing it almost has shown me people's true colors, right? And I've been speaking to others who feel the same way, that this conflict has almost made them realize when you peel layers of people, you know, how are you really underneath? Do you really treat life equally? Do you really believe in human rights? Do you really advocate, you know, for the sanctity of life for children or not? And seeing that very blunt racism is also one of the reasons why I decided to resign. Like, how can I keep representing this administration? How? It wasn't possible for me anymore. And I've said this publicly in some TV interviews when I've been asked that I absolutely think it's racism. And I think that it is something that we have to deal with as a nation, right? The US has refused to deal with its past. And that has had so many implications. And this is one of them. This is sort of the latest iteration of that that's just been left to not address. And there's just some very embedded racism in the minds of people. It's subconscious. And I want to stress that because people are like, okay, racism, well, aren't you more scared about Trump? And I'm like, you know, with Trump, you sort of know what you're going to get. But with the Democrats, it's supposed to be the party of liberalism. It's supposed to be the party of equality. But then you have all of this subconscious bias that actually is quite lethal and quite dangerous because they don't even see their bias. So I had to point people's biases out to them. Do you see? Do you see how differently you react to this child versus this child? And then they're almost shocked because they don't even realize it themselves.